So in this second video looking at binomial probability, we'll be looking at how to find the expected value of x, which is also known as the mean, and the standard deviation and variance of a binomial distribution. So continuing on from the previous video where we introduced binomial probability, one question you might get asked to find in exams or in a textbook question is to find the expected value of x, or also known as the mean, of the binomial distribution. You also may get asked to work out the variance and therefore the standard deviation. Now, to work out each of those, now these formulas may be given to you in the form book depending on your syllabus. It may not be, but they're not that difficult to work out once you've mastered the technique. So to work out the expected value of x, or mu, all we need to do there is multiply n by p. Now, just as a quick reminder, n is the total number of trials, and p is the probability of a success. And both of those two things are given in the general notation of a binomial distribution, either in this form as you can see on the screen, or in the form of a sort of worded description. Now, working out the variance, or sigma squared, then we can either use the formula of npq or np times n1 minus p. Now, q is the probability of a failure, and can therefore be worked out as 1 minus p, because obviously you can only get two possible outcomes, success or failure. So if the probability of a success is p, probability of failure is going to be 1 minus p. And so it doesn't really matter which one of those two you tend to remember. Obviously q, the less variables you have, the easier it's going to be for you to remember, so you go from there. And therefore, to work out the standard deviation, all we need to do is the square root of the variance, so that remains the same, and we can use those formulas you can see on the screen. Now, if you're a good note taker, then I strongly would recommend you write this and include this in your notes, because like I said, depending on whether this is in an exam, you're probably looking at 1 mark to work out the expected value of x, so it could easily appear on a multiple choice question, and the variance standard deviation may be worth 2, just because you've got to add that extra variable and you've got that extra thing of having to work out. So let's now have a look at some basic examples. So here we've got 4 particular different binomial distributions, all with different variables. So let's start off with the first one, which we'll do in red. So number 1, so to work out e of x, all I need to do is multiply n by p, which is 0.32, and that's going to give me an answer of 3.2. Now, to work out the standard deviation of x, all I need to do then is square root 10 times 0.32 times the probability of failure, which is going to be 0.68, and I'm going to type that all into my calculator. And now, if you are doing this in an exam, one thing I strongly would recommend that you do is don't go straight to typing this all into your calculator. Make sure you're writing down what it is you're typing in, and hopefully, as long as you don't make any silly mistake in your rounding, hopefully you should get at least 1 method mark for working this out. So in terms of the question for this, let's go for 1.48 to 3 significant figures. Then moving on to question 2, let's do that in green. So here I'm going to look at the e of y, and so for this I'm going to do 12 times 0.6, and again typing that into your calculator, we should get 7.2. And for the standard deviation of y, we're going to do the square root of 12 times 0.6 times 0.4, and again plug that straight into the calculator, in which we get the answer of 1.70 to 3 sig fig. Now, as I said, in terms of when you're doing this in an exam, I strongly would recommend you writing down exactly how I'm presenting it on the screen right now. So here we've got e of f, and that's going to be 7 times 0.2, so that's going to be 1.4, and the SD of f is going to be the square root of 7 times 0.2 times 0.8, all square rooted, and again straight into the calculator to give me an answer of 1.06 to 3 SF. And then finally, moving on to question 4, so here we've got e of r, and that's going to be 120 times 0.562, which gives me an answer of 67.44. Now this I wouldn't round up to 3 sig fig, even though generally you do. Just because it's a terminating fraction, I'll just leave it as it is. And here I've got the SD of R, which is going to be square root of 120 times 0.562 times 0.438, and just straight into the calculator again. I get a final answer of 5.43, and again to 3SF, and there is your final answer.